Welcome to part 11 of this series, the Roman Empire and the Holy Land. We're going to be elaborating on what we were speaking about in the previous video. Let me just explain the map we're using. So I've got three colors for the three different sons of Noah, Shem, Ham and Japheth. And I've got a question mark for Lud, so we'll speak about that. I'd like to start with a quote from the source we were using in the previous video, Hittites in Africa. We didn't read this part. It says, the Hittites were the founders of the Heraclid dynasty in Lydia. So descendants of Hercules ruling over Lydia. Now that's why we did some mythology earlier on in the series, so we can try and understand this. So we put forward that theory with the Greek god Hercules, or the character in the Greek mythology Hercules, more of a demigod. Could he be connected with the biblical Nimrod? So if we try and make sense of that with our picture, we can see we have Lydia with a question mark. So what we'll do is we'll change the color to match it with Hamites, because we know that the Hittites are descended from Ham through Canaan, but Nimrod's also a descendant of Ham. So now we can see why that would be important for the Hittites, because now there's a Hamite dynasty ruling over Lud. The kingdom of Lud's not going to be a problem for the Hittites. We were speaking about it's important for them to have free reign in this region so they can carry on their wars in Syria. So we can see why it's also important for them to control the kingdom of Lud or Lydia. So that was interesting. Now I'd like to share something with you that we learned from the first series about Madai, son of Japheth, because we left off the previous video speaking about the Persian Empire, but sometimes it's also referred to as the Medo-Persian Empire because there's a relationship between the Medes and the Persians, and even though the Persians conquered the Medes, they still worked together. So it's also known as the Medo-Persian Empire. And the Book of Jubilees could actually help us understand why. Okay, let's read this part. So speaking about Madai, son of Japheth. And Japheth and his sons went towards the sea, and dwelt in the land of their portion. And Madai saw the land of the sea, and it did not please him. And he begged a portion from Elam, and Ashur, and Arphaxad, his wife's brother. And he dwelt in the land of Media, near to his wife's brother until this day. So this is very interesting that we have this account that Madai marries a daughter of Shem, and he comes to live amongst the descendants of Shem. And this could explain this connection with the Medes and the Persians, because we learned from Josephus that the Persians come from Elam. So now we can understand why there can be a connection between the Medes and the Persians. But there's something else we learned from the Book of Jubilees about Madai, which could be important. And it's this union between Madai and Arphaxad. So it tells us about the son of Arphaxad called Canem marrying a daughter of Madai called Melka, and they have Selah. So this would be a union between Madai and Arphaxad. So we'd be looking for proof on the historical record for a connection between the Medes and the descendants of Arphaxad. So those are two important things that we learned from the Book of Jubilees. And you see we've got India here for East Africa, because we spoke about the confusion between India and Ethiopia, and also that some parts of East Africa were called India. But we were asking the question, could this be the land of Elam? So let's change that. But now we've just mentioned how Elam's connected with the Persians, and we have these traditions that the Persians come out of Elam. So we were wondering about this region for the Persians and the Red Sea. Could that have been known as the Persian Gulf? So if we can change this to Persia, so we can see what we're speaking about with these empires. I'll just change this, maybe make it a bit smaller so that it fits. Okay. So now, we were speaking about the Hittite power in the region of the Iberian Peninsula, and that their power eventually was broken and their empire collapsed. So now we can see how Lud could take advantage of that and absorb the former territory of the Hittites. But what I'd like to do is to expand Persia, so we could get an idea of this Persian Empire, and just how extensive and how large it may have been, because it may have been even larger than the empire that we've been told. So if we just recap with this Persian Empire, so remember how we said that Cyrus the Great, he upset the balance or the status quo, because the Medes and the Babylonians, they entered into an alliance to destroy the Assyrian Empire. But now when the Assyrian Empire is out of the way, what's going to keep that alliance together? And we spoke about how there was intermarriage between the Lydian Empire and the Medes, to try to keep that stability. But then Persia conquers the Medes, and that upsets the balance. And we spoke about how Lydia made war on Persia. But we also forgot to mention in the previous video, if we go to the map of the Persian Empire, that the Persian Empire also conquers the Babylonian Empire and also Egypt. So it becomes greater than the previous empires combined. So if we go back to our map, we can see that we've got Egypt in this territory, and we've got the land of Nimrod. So that's what we're speaking about for thinking about the Babylonian Empire, or the land of Nimrod, because we did that video with Cush. Could Cush have come into this region after the flood? And Nimrod was in the family of Cush. So we're going to keep expanding this Persian Empire, because we want to speak about how we have this war between Persia and Lydia, and then we said that the Persian were victorious over Lud, and that was going to bring the Persians into the realm of Lud, and that they're going to expect that the holdings of Lydia are going to submit to their rule. So that would be the former territory of the Hittites. And then we said how that would bring the Persians into the realm, or closer to the realm of Europe. And that's where we left off that previous video. So what I would like to speak about now is what happens after the Persian Empire, because we know that Alexander the Macedonian, who we know as Alexander the Great, that he rises up, because we first have the wars between Persia and Greece, and this wars against Persia and Greece is actually the undoing for Persia, and the rise of Alexander, we know that he's going to be, in a very short time, that he conquers the whole he conquers the whole Persian Empire. So this territory of Persia is going to shrink, and eventually we know that Alexander is going to be victorious over the Persian Empire. So we can delete this shape, so we can see that the Persian Empire has been broken. But the reason why I want to speak about Alexander is because remember how we said that we started this series in this part of the world, and we're moving towards the Roman Empire, but we said that the religion of the Roman world and the Greek world is going to be, well, it seems like it's going to be stemming back from this part of the world, or being influenced by this part of the world, and that this part of the world is going to be important to the Romans and to the Greeks. So we're just going to look at what happens with Alexander in his life story, because he comes to Egypt, and this part's interesting. Okay, so it says, to legitimize taking power and be recognized as the descendant of the long line of pharaohs, Alexander made sacrifices to the gods at Memphis, and went to consult the famous oracle of Amun-Ra at the Siwa oasis. He was pronounced son of the deity Amun at the oracle of Siwa oasis in the Libyan desert. Henceforth, Alexander often referred to Zeus Ammon as his true father. So now we see this Macedonian coming to the land of Ham, but he's saying that he's a legitimate ruler because he's a descendant of the long line of pharaohs. So thinking about the things we've spoken about with this mythology, that we're connecting Zeus with Cush, what is actually going on here is Alexander is coming to this region to say, I'm a descendant of Cush or of Ham. So that's what we're trying to think about, that this region is going to be important to the Greeks and the Romans. And now we can actually see some evidence on the record that the Macedonian Alexander, coming into this region, not just to conquer it, but also to show or to make these claims that he's actually a descendant of he carries the same DNA or the blood of these Egyptian pharaohs, and that he's a rightful ruler, and declaring Zeus Ammon as his father. I think that does show how this region is going to be, well, it seems like it's going to be attracting the Greeks and the Romans, and we can see that on the historical record. So I just wanted to bring that up to kind of bring the series full circle, to see how this region is very important to the Greeks and the Romans. And we said how the religion could be influenced by, sorry, to the Greeks and the Romans, their religion could be influenced by this region. But now we're seeing also potentially the royal families, because Alexander is actually claiming to be a descendant of Zeus. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is start to speak about the Romans and get an idea of the Roman Empire, because the Roman Empire is the next major power after the Macedonian and the Greek Empire. So I'm going to cheat a bit here and bring Japheth into this region and change it quickly to the Roman Empire, just so we can get an idea about the visuals and get a visual representation with this. So the Roman Empire is going to start swallowing up the former Macedonian Empire or the Greek Empire. And if we go to the page on Syria, it says that Syria became a Roman province in 64 BC. And we're going to read this part here. Syria prospered under Roman rule, being strategically located on the Silk Road, which gave it massive wealth and importance, making it the battleground for the rivaling Romans and Persians. So Syria became the battleground. Now, because we've just read about the battle between Rome and Persia, these two great powers, we know that Persia is going to re-emerge as a power, as another, what we say is like a Neo-Persian empire. So I want to just show this, if you give me a second to build this back up so we can visualize it. So I'm going to put the Roman Empire, and the battleground is going to be Syria. So now we can just start to expand the Persian Empire again, to see that their power is starting to grow, and their influence on Syria and the Holy Land. And if we can just, we don't really need a sphere, we don't need a sphere for the Romans, but just to get the idea that the Romans are in control of Syria at that point, but the Persians are going to be trying to rebuild their former empire, try to get back to that former greatness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete Syria, and I'm going to bring this this line in here to show that this region here is going to be the major battleground between the Romans and the Persians. And we actually learned from the sources that it's actually the Euphrates River that the Romans and the Persians agree to be like the marker for their boundary. So they're going to say that, let's use the Euphrates River to say, we won't come past this mark, and you're not going to come past this mark. And we know that the Euphrates River is going to be very close to the territory of Syria. So I just wanted to show you visually what we're looking at, that we're going to have these two great powers, Persia and the Roman Empire, and then the Roman Empire never fully conquers Persia. So there's going to be a strength to Persia, to this region, that we need to try to learn about. And this is going to be the major battleground, the land of Syria. And we already see that if we go back in time, if you think about those previous videos, how this region was important for the Egyptians and the Hittites. So that's what we're saying, that this region here, if we think about these countries like Niger, Nigeria, Chad, it could be a very important region, the further back we go in time. And maybe it might become very important again, coming towards our modern times, going towards the future, when we know about like history repeating itself. So I hope you've enjoyed this series so far. I'd like to try to plan a finale to finish the series, and just to kind of bring it all together and think about all that we've spoken about. So thank you for watching this one, and then maybe we'll see you in the finale.